Hello and welcome to Giving It All Away, Open Sourcing Security Policies. I'm Stefan Semmelroth, and today we're going to jump into something that's surprisingly fun in a kind of masochistic way. But the goal here is to make it a little bit more fun and a little bit less masochistic. So obviously we've got a little bit of disclaimers. So we've got all views are my own. None of them represent any of the other companies or people that we'll be talking about today, of course. None of this is legal advice, none of it is financial advice, and of course nothing pertains to any clearances that anybody I speak with, including myself, may have had or may still currently have. So, we are at GRIMMCon 0x7. Look at that cast of characters. I didn't think maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I didn't think I'd be on a list with a lot of people up here. But surprisingly, hey, look, there's me. Yay! So here's a little bit about me. It's my LinkedIn. You can go look it up. You're not here to listen to me. Well, you're not here to listen about me. If you really want to know, there's some security stuff and other stuff. Hey, look, creds. Yay. What you're here to talk about is the problem that I had at about 2 o'clock in the morning a few years ago. 2 o'clock in the morning, I had immediate requirement to build a set of security policies. Now, the problem with this one is I didn't have access to many of the other security policies that I had used previously. I also, because of this very particular instance, I did not have access to really much of anything. It's kind of a weird carte blanche scenario. And without any of those repositories, I didn't have access to paid repositories. I didn't have access to much of anything. And so here I am at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out how I'm going to get this stuff in so we can go land a new logo for the sales team to make sure that they can win for this particular client. Because they need it, and they need it now, very quickly. So obviously I did that same thing that anyone does in this scenario, is I said, help me Google. Started using my foo. And what I found through that at 2 o'clock in the morning was, well, it made me a little sad. It made me a little sad because as I was going through and trying to find every darn open source policy on the market, any policies where like, okay, I know where I need to go and I know how to start, but I don't have time to do all this together. So what is the fastest way for me to do this? Of course, inside of legal boundaries, etc. But there were 5 main problems that I ran into. 5 main problems that I ran into that evening. The first one is many of the policies that I found were just too dang specific. They were too specific. They weren't policies. They were almost like run books. And if they're run books, they're not a policy. A policy should be a framework that things fall under. Not a run book. The second problem was the inverse, too general. This is our security policy and we shall follow it, period, the end. They were a little bit better than that, but they were far too general. We need something that's in between. And also many of them were unusable. And this is one of the issues that I see all the time. All the time, whether I'm out with clients, whether I'm helping build a new program, is you have a policy that either, well, let's just be real. You read through it and you go, no one's actually going to use this, right? And if it's not usable, then it's a dust collector. It's sitting over there on top of your AS400 somewhere, just collecting dust. Also, AS400s still need to breathe, so please take the policies off them. Put them on the shelf next to them, maybe. Fourth problem, not applicable. Not applicable. Whether it's be due to geography, a different region, a different subset of procedures or compliance or something else that just made them not applicable to what we're working on. And then, of course, I've already mentioned it, the fifth one, didn't want to pay. I don't like paying for things if I don't have to. And I know that many of you don't either. Also, especially because you're buying something and you don't know the outcome. And I've seen tons of policies out there that just are paid policies, thousands of dollars, and you get it and you look at it and you go, how about no? And that takes us back to not really applicable or unusable because you don't always know what you're paying for. And so that made me go on an emotional journey again at 2:00 in the morning, which was, I was in denial. How can there not be this thing that should be easy, right? And at that point, if I'm remembering right, like SANS had some, but they don't have the great repository that they do now. And I started to get frustrated. In fact, I started to get angry. And when I get angry, I tend to have we'll say a response that's about building things and fixing them and just solving the problem and helping other people. Because as I was bargaining about this, both with myself and with Google at the time, I thought, there's got to be something better out there. And then, of course, since it's 2:00 in the morning, I was already tired. I got a little depressed. Man, I really have to do this. I'm really going to have to build the thing that I want myself. Could go buy it. I don't want to buy it. All right. Well, then obviously the next step is acceptance. I guess I'm doing this. And if I'm going to do this, then it's probably time for me to roll up my sleeves and get ready to go. Let's do this. So I started writing. And writing. And writing. And victory. So that particular client, because of what we wrote, we got it through. It met all of the needs that their clients who were doing their third-party risk needed them to do. So we got it in. We won, right? Did we? Well, obviously, now that I've got this great build thing that I can now reuse and recycle, unlike previously, for reasons, let's recycle and reuse it. Let's recycle and reuse it. Let's wash, rinse, and repeat. So that's what we started doing. We started wash, rinse, repeat, recycle, and reuse. And I say we because I got to bring in some big guns on this project. Now, many of you happen to know the military background thing. A lot of people in the military spend a lot of time writing a lot of policy. So I brought in Sean Iyer and Adrian Tilston, who both similar to me, West Point backgrounds. I was electrical engineering. They were both computer science. And we started making it better. We started making it better because we were working on some clients together. And we could do that, right? Because continuously improving the position that we're in. So if you don't know Sean Iyer and Adrian Tilston, I recommend you go to LinkedIn and connect with them. So here's Sean. He's got a great company that does great work, admirable work for a great cause. And Adrian Tilston, great guy. Period. Great work. Period. So we did this work, right? Now we built it into something that we could use. And initially, I started using it as a leverage point for professional services. Hey, we've got this thing. I was doing kind of what the big guys did, right? Except instead of charging, you unlock all these free things with $100,000 to spend. Or you unlock all these free things with a $30,000 spend. Or you just, spend a few, maybe tens of thousands of dollars in pro services to come build the thing based off of something else. We were doing a little bit different. Said, okay, $2,000 pro services, just unlock it. And then we said, well, what if we could do something else? But life happened, and it wasn't until I was sitting with a marketing team where I was at the time, and they were talking about our SEO and how we're going to do our SEO glide path, search engine optimization. How do we use the Googles to get more people to our site? So with SEO, we're sitting there, we're going, okay, sure. Well, fine. We got to have more keywords. Great. What are some of the keywords? Well, Stefan, you're the cyber guy. You're the security guy. You're the tech guy. What are some of the things that we need to have on here? Well, we start laying it out. Okay. Start laying it out. Boom, incident response. Boom, rehearsing your incident response plan. Insurance, etc., 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 etc. And as we started going through, I'm like, hold on. I don't want to go write a whole bunch of new articles if I don't have to. We already have this work. And all of this work with all of those keywords that need to be in there is in the wonderful policy set that we already wrote. So I said, hey team, marketing glide path. Wondering, you tell me if this is okay. We're probably going to have to check with a couple other people. Wondering if we could take that thing that we built, that we're making a couple clients paid for. I don't want to make them pay for it anymore. What if we just give it away? And we just give it away as part of our SEO plan. So we put it on the glide path, did some evals on it a little bit, said, do we think this will work? And the answer was actually yes. So we got approval to go through and give it away. We wanted to make sure that we give it away. So we put it out. And Stratacore, thankfully, thank you, Stratacore, allowed us to go take all that work that we did and publish it open source. Incredibly permissively. MIT license. Under the MIT license. Unrestricted use. So that way, it all becomes yours now. It's not mine, it's not ours, it's yours because it belongs to the world because we were able to open source it, which is awesome. And I'm so excited that we were able to do that. And then, of course, anytime you open source, especially when you're looking at multiple organizations being a part of this, between Sean and me and Adrian and some of the other clients that we're supporting at the time, and how it all fits together in this weird ecosystem. Obviously, it's not just going to live on a website. And where do people in tech put things? Where do people in tech put things that they may want somebody else to contribute to, or make it easy for you to find? Well, obviously the answer is GitHub. So we said it'll live and be maintained on GitHub, and we'll do it under Sean's nonprofit, Ariki Security. So that's why it's over here. That's why when you go to find it, you can get it off Stratacore's page, but that's not necessarily the most up-to-date content. You can get it here on GitHub, where it is, I'll say, the most up-to-date, because it is still something that we do to help the community. It's not something that we're paid for. So be the change you want and contribute if there's things in there that we need help with. And we do need help because it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the world at this point. So now I'll go ahead and shift a little bit here. I'm going to want to share this screen. So let's walk through some of it. Let's walk through one of the babies that is this project. And we think it's so fundamental, especially to drive change in an organization, that we called it Project Keystone, the most important stone when you're building a foundation, the Keystone, because we want it to be available and easy for you to use. We want you to be able to use it so you don't have to go through the 5 stages of grief that I had to do at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's here. Now let's jump into it a little bit. enhance. So this is the main page, landing page when you get to Project Keystone, right? And we put it right here. Rising tides lift all ships. And we want to rise the tide to buoy all of you and what it is that you're doing. So as we jump into it, let's just talk about some of it. So we believe that we have, done a good job of making sure that we highlight where we got the majority of the information. And if you find something that we had forgotten to attribute through the many versions, please let us know so we can fix that. We're not in the business of plagiarizing. It should all be either very well documented or um, completely and utterly changed, because there's so many versions that we've gone through, and we've talked to so many professionals out in the field in order to get it to this point. Yep, free and permissive under MIT, and let's talk a little bit about how to use this thing. I'm wondering if can we make it bigger? Aha, we can. So the first thing you need to know before you start writing a policy for the company is, what the heck does the company do? Why does it exist? Is it a nonprofit in the healthcare space? Is it a for-profit fintech company? I can't tell you that. You need to check that first. You need to jump into it, because the policies that literally you're telling the company what to do through these policies. So it has to be applicable to them. It has to be actionable, and it has to be a way that's consumable and in a way that they'll follow it. So step one is start by reading it and understanding it. I know that sounds crazy, but I can't tell you how many questions we get often because, well, as you know, too long didn't read. Now, here's the deal. This set of policies is for basically security and IT. It has a lot of crossover. But what you have to be careful on is working through things like especially the employee handbook. Because first off, you don't want to put counterintuitive things. If red, then blue. No. If blue, then red. Remember, it has to be actionable. So you probably have to read things like this. And almost every time I've done this, I've talked with the HR at the client, and they'll say something like, yes, our employee handbook, it's under revision. Oh, okay. Well, can you at least give me the most recent version and any changes in errata so we can drive it? Should still get us close enough. Because unless there's any major changes, like moving into a new region, new compliance, headquarters, moving somewhere else, bringing on, a lot of it's regional based or also compliance vertical face. You get it. Make sure that these are either subordinate to, or it will help go back, drive some of the other pieces. Like the acceptable use policy probably shouldn't actually be in this handbook. In the policy set, that should actually probably be over in the employee handbook. So make sure they mesh. Now keep in mind, this should be a document that drives change for the company that you're working with. So you gotta be pretty damn judicious about how much change you're going to drive and how quickly, because change can be a business risk. I'm gonna say that again, change can be a business risk. And there have been times when I've actually recommended to clients that they literally split their company in two. That's not a security change, Stefan. It absolutely is. Because this client set that you just brought on, they require so much lockdown that if you do that, we can expect 10% of your engineering team, your dev team, to leave within probably 18 months. And if that's the case, 10% of your engineering team times the recruiting fees to go replace them, that's tough. Company actually followed those recommendations and they split off, and they were able to have a pretty awesome revenue investment, ROI, because we were very judicious when defining change. Now, some of the other external trackers and things, and we'll jump into those in a minute. So stay tuned. Um, if we don't have a reference for them in here, that's fine. You can build them. Go for it. If you do, and we're missing it, please hand it over. We'll get you credit and help build your brand. And remember, these are not technical run books, right? They're not super, super narrow. These are policies. They don't tell you which unified endpoint management system to use. They tell you that you need a unified endpoint management, formerly known as MDM. So just remember that, and make sure anybody else important at the company reviews these before you just stamp it, right? Because you don't want legal coming back and having a problem because of something that you may have, recommended. So let's talk a little about what's in here. So if you jump into it, you can download right here the original base document in Word. Yeah, I know it's Word. Give me a break. It's what we had at the time. But Tony Giovanelli also built it out in Markdown. We've got some updates to do around that because not all the tabbing was converted over well. Give us a break, guys. We're working for free. And then, of course, the Markdown. And what Tony did also is he went through and built it out in LaTeX. So just massive shout out to Tony Giovanelli for his work on this part-time as well. Volunteer time. Just dude, much respect for doing a lot of the work that we didn't have time to do. So let's jump into it a little bit, right? So here is the Markdown policies, and again, you can tell in here, like scope A and B, those should be bolted out. Yeah, fine, whatever. But it's all here, right? You can jump through it. It's pretty long. Let's jump into now the LaTeX version. A little bit easier to read for you, right? Let's go ahead and jump in if I know how to actually scroll. There we go. So the way that we work this, we have the overall policy. Why does this thing exist? What does it do? What's the scope? Enforcement terms, policies, exceptions. Gotta have exceptions, right? Most of us have an engineering background. Gotta have exceptions. What the documentation control looks like, and then supporting policies. So this is the base document. This tells you where to go. And all of the appendices from here flow back to this. And this should nest tightly again with those other things like the employee handbook, any vision, mission, value statements for the company, like nest it well. And then, of course, down here, step 1, we've got our information classification, handling, and retention policy. So what type of information we have, how do we split it up, who gets to access it, and how long do we keep it? Because that's a lot of intellectual property. So let's jump straight at the intellectual property, make sure that we're doing right by our clients. Then, of course, we have incident management policy and the process. This is one of the few times in here that we actually included a process because it's so darn important to make sure that you've got the policies and processes defined for incident management. We'll jump into that just briefly here in a minute. Asset management policy. What do we have? How are we doing that? How are we doing inventories? How often? Yada, yada, yada. AUP, again, it's we've got it here for you. It should probably be over in the employee handbook. Change management, change control, super important. Remote work policy. I think that's a stubbed out one for in here because I believe that one we pushed it back to employee handbook as well. Security awareness program policy, pretty boilerplate there. Look, it's an entire page, says we need to have one, tells you how long to do it, how often that training is, and then some things to look at. Business continuity policy and plan. Everybody's just exercised some form of this during the coronavirus. And then technical security policy. So this is where many of you, I think, with the engineering backgrounds or the technical backgrounds, you're going to love this part here because it'll resonate strongly. And then, of course, reputation management, system lifecycle management, those are to be published. So we start off here with the company statement, the policy statement, right? And what is the purpose of these guidelines and policy? It's to help the company execute their mission. So you start by putting your client's mission statement in here, or your own mission statement if you're writing this for your own company. So just go through and read this, right? You go through, you start working on it. Roles and responsibilities. We believe that, or at least hope that some people will read this, or at the very least, it gives us some training for the company. We start with the CEO because this needs to come from the top down. The CISO, legal, internal audit, IT team, office manager, privileged users, and then RACI. I wanted to get to RACI right here because it's very important. If you don't have a project management background, responsible, accountable, consult, and inform. Responsible, accountable, consult, and inform. Very important to say who does what, who is responsible for doing the action, and then who is accountable. That's usually the next step up to say, hey, person that's responsible, are you doing it? Who needs to be consulted through a process? And then when the process is complete, it runs into a problem, who's informed? You have to get a good RACI document in, you're going to be cooking with fire. I'm telling you, it actually drives a lot of changes. Very, very good. So we'll skip through some of this. One of the things I did want to highlight, if we go all the way down to the incident response piece, is like the difference between what is an event and what is an incident. We've got that outlined pretty well in here. We've got outlined who does the triage team. How do you do communications for your PACE plan? PACE is primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency communications. I don't think we actually have that spelled out, so I'll take that note. And then who are the people that we need to talk to? Do we have an MSP? Do we have an MSSP, local provider, local FBI, CERT, web hosting, insurance, all of that in here, right? And then how do we do this? How do we do triage escalation? If something happens and we do get to the point where now we're in we've gone to an actual incident, we've got our incidents defined, and what do we do? How fast do we need to do that? It's all in here, and then we've got some steps to take when there actually is an incident, like, talking with your marketing team, make sure they know how to do messaging management, get that out to the team, and go fast, get ahead of it, release it quickly. I mean, it's all the same standard stuff. So go check it out. Now I'm going to bring up Carlota real quick as well, because this ties into a lot of the conversations that I have quite often. Just GitHub, Carlota, show me the money. Oftentimes, this kickoff of building out programs and policies is one of the first things that a vCISO will have to do. And as I coach people as they try to become a vCISO or go a little bit higher, faster, move up the food chain a bit, we talk about getting deep into policies because it defines change and it's programmatic, etc. Carlota does an amazing job. I recommend this is the second piece of it, and it's all about how you do your eval. How you do your eval for a company. Where are they? Where are they organizational maturity? How do we drive change? How do we get better? And then, of course, building out a roadmap. So go check out Carlota's stuff. This roadmap build right here, we use it all the time. Carlota and I talk about it probably quarterly, and get some updates in there quite often. She's just phenomenal. And this, if you get nothing else out of this, two things: one, Project Keystone, right, and two, Carlota, because she is great and the content is great. Now, we talked a little bit about this. So you want to be a CISO. Awesome. Make sure you've got the right personality for it, because it could be not completely different than what you expect, right? So we talked about that. Go look at both of those GitHubs. Contribute, please. If you see something in there, go ahead and contribute. And the best way to do that is talk to Sean. I don't know if he's published it yet, but we've got some contribution guidelines for there. And remember that in cybersecurity, the C in cyber stands for change. So don't drive change too quickly. Drive the right amount of change at the right time, and you'll be so close to winning. So I'm right at time. I love GRIMMCon. I love what Grimm is doing. I love this stuff. So please, I hope this is useful. If it was, go connect with some of the people out there. Go use the tools. Give us feedback because I want you in the industry to win. And I'm recording this in the past because I'm traveling. If you're watching this, I'm traveling right now. So hopefully I was able to find Wi-Fi. And in a few minutes here, we should be able to do some Q&A. So again, I've been Stefan, and just get out there, be the change that you want to see. Happy day.